Okay, so this is my Milestone 2 report. I did switch to a third-person game, so it is just a completely new project. But let me just start off by showing the first thing I did. So the first thing, I did the coding path, so I wanted to implement the grappling hook. So the first thing I realized I need to do is a way to, come on buddy, there we go, a way to aim in third person. So what I ended up doing was creating this thing. When you hold down on the the left mouse, and you pivot around, several things happen. So first of all, the camera goes up close over the character's shoulder. Also, this crosshair comes up, and the character rotates to wherever the camera is facing. So let me just walk through my code for doing that really quick. So basically, when you start the game, you set up the HUD with this HUD widget, which is just the crosshair, and you add it to the viewport, but you make sure it's invisible to start. Then when you input action aim, which is the left mouse click, the grappling branch I'll deal with later, but you set the visibility of the HUD to true, and you set is aiming to true. So is aiming is true, and then in the tick, if you are aiming, then you call this player rotate with camera function, which basically what it does is two things. First, it makes sure that the actor, it keeps resetting the character's rotation to the follow camera's rotation. And we just care about the Z axis, so like rotating around the up axis, so X and Y are ignored, but we want to make sure we're facing the right way around the Z axis as the camera is. And then this set world location has to do with making the follow camera zoom in. So basically what I did is I created this aiming camera anchor, which is, let me turn it to visible for a second. So it's basically just this like sphere that hovers over the shoulder of the player. And so what you're doing in here is you're just making that follow camera be at that location, so it's always just over his right shoulder. So that is how I did the aiming with the crosshair and the rotation. Next is grappling. So let me show that. So once you aim, if you aim at one of these grapple points and you press the E key, your character grapples to that point. So once again, several things happen. The end of the cable attaches to that point, and then you move at a constant rate to that grapple point, and then when you're done, you just fall and you can resume your normal player movement. So let me just go up to the last one and then walk through the code for that. So basically, this is the grapple code. When you press E, you do this hook line trace, which just does a line trace, like we talked about in class, from the follow camera, the middle of the follow camera to just straight out. Then if you hit something, you cast that to a hook object and see if it is a hook object. If it is a hook object, you save a reference to that object, and then I just have these vector variables just to make things a little bit easier. You save the hook location and the start location, which is just your location. So those are, where you're going to be grappling in between, and then you return true. So once that returns true, you set is grappling to true. You change the hook object color, which just changes the sphere that you're hooking onto to red. I just did that just so I could test it out, honestly. You zoom out the camera, because I wanted the camera to be back to the zoomed out position when you were grappling. So all that does is set the visibility of the HUD to false, and then put your camera back at the original rotation and location that it starts out as. So back to grappling. So you zoom out the camera, you attach the end of your cable to whatever you grappled onto. And then the actual meat of the movement is a timeline. So basically you are lerping between the start location and the hook location. And then setting the actor location to those increments as you go. That's the part of the timeline. You have to get the play rate for the timeline, so you have to do a bit of math to do that. What I did was I took the hook location minus the start location, got the length of that, divided by this thing called grapple speed. So basically I'm getting the length and dividing it into a ton of little pieces. If you get the inverse of that, then that will be the play rate. That will make sure that you end at the grapple location. So anyways, so you get the play rate, you disable the character movement, and then you just kind of play out the timeline where you're just slowly moving towards the target. When you're done, when you're finished, you reset the character movement to walking, you reset the material of the hook object to just be normal, and you set the hooked object reference to null, and you've set is grappling to false. The only other thing is, the only other piece of code I have is you can reset the cable to your hand by you press R, and then it just attaches the end of the cable back to your hand. And I just added in this socket in the skeleton of the character, so I could put the cable there easily. Okay, I think that is all I got. I'll play through it once again. So I turn with the crosshair, and I aim, and I rotate, press E, and I move towards the grapple point. Press R, and I reset my cable to my right hand. The cable, the idea here is the cable is supposed to be anchored like at his hip, like if it was on a belt or something, and then it's, he's holding it in his hand, and then he's kind of throwing it and then going. So hopefully next week what I want to do is add in some animation, and maybe, have a throwing animation, have a cool grappling animation. I think that would be really cool. So yeah, that is my Milestone 1 report.